Thank you.
So, good evening to all of you over there. Good evening. We have some people here in Biella, some Dutch people around. I hope someone else will join. Actually, as you know, like this session is called Talk and Drink. That's why we have some wine. And this is, let's say, oh, thank you, Levi, great. Melanie, I know that Melanie, she's drinking a cup of tea somewhere. So. And yeah, the point of the wine is that we intend this series of meetings as a quite informal way of, let's say, listening to someone practice and someone research, and then also try to, let's say, get involved in the research pretty, informally, let's say. So apart from this story of informality, as you see this evening, we are not in a very informal place, since this is a very, the most, let's say, historical places and rooms here in the Pistoletto Foundation. This has been a place that was dedicated to looms in the late 18th century. And then actually, thanks to the Industrial Revolution, they changed completely the way of producing wool. And so they decided to build a new building, which is the big white building or the foundation over there. And the entrepreneur decided to dedicate those places for welcoming guests, but also for organizing cultural events for the workers. So it was a very interesting place because, we were in the middle of the 19th century. It was 1870s around. And that entrepreneur wanted to dedicate those space to the workers. So it's a kind of very primitive welfare system. But somehow this has more or less the same vocation nowadays, since still this is a place devoted to cultural activities and conversations and music and poetry and art and so on and so on. Next week we will be instead in another place, but it's also quite nice that this evening we are here around those wooden tables in these fresco strips. What else? Yes, the meeting has already started the recording of the meeting. And actually, the reason why the Dutch students are not all together in a place is that alcohol is not anymore allowed in ArtEZ, and so they cannot drink a glass of wine. So, since we really wanted this to be quite informal, we suggested them to attend the meeting like by the houses, and I know that someone is they should be together with others in a sort of more homey environment. Alessandra is also here, and I'm really happy to see you here. For you, Leonardo, Alessandra, she's tutoring the project, let's say, in the Dutch side of the story, but she's also in contact with Italian students, and I know, Ale, that someone will contact you soon because he's really interested in talking with you, so you will receive an email or something like that. And just to come to the very fast end of my introduction, Leonardo Mastromauro is, I can describe him as, let's say, an artist, a researcher, somehow a curator as well, but let's say it's all these things together. And this is what most of us are, so many things together, so not only one vertical thing. An artist is not only an artist, a researcher is not only a scholar, and so on, but we always intertwine all these activities and practices. So it's very difficult to say, yeah, I'm a scholar, I only do research, I only do artistic practice, but as we know, we embed all the things together. So he studied in Italy for a while, in Florence, and then in Venice, and passing by 2 universities, let's say. But then he went to Latin America. I mean, he will introduce himself much better than me, but just to say very few words. In Latin America, he's doing and finishing his PhD course, and to get the PhD title, of course, in visual arts. And visual arts specifically focused on socially engaged practices. And this is also quite interesting because in a way he's doing, as Beatrice is also doing, and many others people are doing, let's say a PhD, let's say throughout artistic practice. So the fact that practice can also be a way of doing research to the very highest level, the top of the notch, let's say, of the research, which is the PhD. And this can also be done through the practice. It's very interesting for me as an idea and as a thing, let's say. So I will not say much more because Leonardo has a lot of things to say, much more interesting than mine. So thank you for joining us, and we're here. For you guys, if you have any questions or something like that, just keep it in mind, and then we have a session of Q&A after the presentation of Leonardo. So thank you, and please take the stage.
Okay, thank you, Michele. Do you listen me? Okay. Thank you for inviting me, and thank you, everybody. Thank you also for the presentation. I want to share with you my a PDF. Is an interactive PDF. So if there's something wrong, let me know. Oh, okay. In this short lesson, we try to think about a notion that even if it's fundamental in global socio-political, economic and cultural strategies, has not yet been adequately analyzed in contemporary debates. It is the notion of South. To make it clear, not the south of Italy, South America, or South Africa, whatever, but South in general, like socio-political paradigm. Despite post-colonial studies have brought out the problems relating to it, it is not completely clear what this concept means. Actually, seems that it operates as a prerequisite that is taken too much for granted. When I started the research, was still in progress, I realized that when we try to think about South, there's a sort of simple and common paradox. We are always faced with something like a Gordian knot, something like a tautological circle, where what we call South is nothing more than what is southernmost than the South itself. What does it mean? In other words, when we speak about South, we refer to a series of social, political, and cultural values relating to the construction of relation with a particular territory, which can be placed lower than those socially accepted, therefore hegemonic and dominant. The two images I'm showing you clearly demonstrate this. In fact, these two pictures are a part of a book of 17th century. The title of the book is Primer Nueva Crónica y Buen Gobierno, is a Spanish book, written by Felipe Guamán Poma de Ayala, who describes the tragic colonization of the Andine territories in Peru. As you can see in the image on the left, a native serves at a banquet of colonists and is disproportionately represented. Actually, he is anatomically smaller than colonists in order to remark his inferiority. And in the second image, a priest holds a crying indigenous woman by the hair and forces her to work. I would like to give you a couple more examples relating to the contemporary world, which highlight what we have just said. For example, in an article published a few years ago, I think in 2011, on the African Report magazine, the anthropologist Lamia Karim analyzed the problem of microcredits in Africa. According to her, the Agreement Bank and other similar examples, with the attempt to reproduce locally the global ideas of neoliberal economics, causes more damage than benefits. Actually, women give loans to their husbands and became the main vector for the circulation of capital in rural contexts, effect which has caused violence both at the family and community levels. In Asia, the situation is not different. More than 270,000 farmers committed suicide in India since 1995. In India, 60% of the population still depends directly or indirectly on agriculture. Essentially, it is the largest farming community in the world. But this India of villages and small farms is increasingly neglected and often abandoned in favor of the new economy based in industry and cities. Following the logic of industrialized agriculture, India could do with a maximum 20% of its farmers, setting half its population in danger of extinction. The most obvious sign for the demoralization of the rural population are the mass suicides of farmers. According to the National Crime Record Bureau, around 14,000 farmers killed themselves in 2011. Not by chance, the beginning of the suicide series coincided with the India's entry into the World Trade Organization in 1995. Forced by WTO rules, India had to withdraw from purchasing cotton at guaranteed rates and diminish trade barriers. India reduced public aid for the farming sector and privatized large areas of its society. Instead of providing public health care, India has one of the most privatized healthcare systems in the world. Also in contemporary art practices, we can find same processes. I chose an emblematic example that you probably know, actually Supergas project by Superflex, started during 1996. As the collective art group said in their website, Supergas is an alternative energy production method and installation work. Superflex began collaborating with European and African engineers in 1996 to construct a simple biogas unit that could produce sufficient gas for the cooking and lighting needs of families living in rural areas of the Global South. Superflex installed the first supergas system at a farm in Tanzania in cooperation with the African organization Surude, Sustainable Rural Development, in 1997. Supergas was presented to the public at the Louisiana Museum of Modern Art in Denmark in 1998 through video documentation, written statements, campaign paintings, and posters. The same year, Superflex established the shareholding company to develop the biogas system and actively promote investment in daily life of families living in rural areas in the Global South. And now, The neo-colonial model of the art group appears in an interview with Ozan Aking, where artists refer to Mohamed Yunus microcredits in South Africa. Well, it's the same example analyzed by the anthropologist Lamia Karim in the article of African Report that we mentioned a little while ago. The system introduced by artists in developing countries creates the condition to maintain relations of dependence between North and South. As Kester said, the supergas project confirms one of the central principles of structural adjustment policy. Aid recipients must first be reformed, made more like us, self-realized bourgeois subjects, and their poverty is the result of insufficient entrepreneurial spirit. Only at this level, the project reiterates the discourse of neoliberalism rather than challenge it. In Chile, the same discourse is applied to cultural and artistic projects of public policy. In fact, as a reaction to the growing phenomenon of collaborative and community-based artistic practices, public policy finances residency programs in isolated areas with a strong presence of indigenous communities. This is not a marginal fact if we consider the geopolitical conformation of Chile, where everything is completely centralized in the capital, and where the conflict between indigenous population, Mapuche, and government policies is still very strong. Actually, these residencies remark an internal colonialist strategy, which aims to maintain control on the local autonomies through culture, which creates submissive citizens. Another field where it is possible to highlight the dependence relationships between North and South is linguistic one. For example, WOP, which comes from WAP of Napolitan dialect and guapo, of course, in Spanish language, was used in North America to identify Italian immigrants, and sureño and sudaca were used in Spain to identify South American people, and is still used, at least in Chile, in a derogatory sense for people from the global South or for people of pure classes. So when we refer to the South, we are used to doing it through the paradigms of the North. The North is the yardstick to trying to understand and at the same time deactivate the South. In other words, we never think about South starting from its own internal relations, but we speak about South referring to Northern, social, political, cultural, and so on, paradigms. So what we can deduce from this first analysis is the fact that we should not think about South and North in geographical way, but as two different and antithetical relational systems between human beings, territories, and non-humans forms of life. But now, how can we interpret the North? I want to show you a scene from an old film with Anthony Hopkins. The title is Instinct. And this film is the story of an anthropologist who became part of a group of monkeys. And well, to defend this group, he killed some forest guards, and for this reason, he's looked up in a psychiatric center. In a scene of the film, when the psychiatrist who follows the case goes to question him, this is what happens.
Good. Hey, Doc, what do you make of it?
What is this?
Not finished.
Ethan, take your time, Doc. What are you making here?
The true history of mankind. It's a true history. No fiction, no lie. Africa 2 million years ago. Humans, when they moved. Migrated. 10,000 years ago, Civilization. You.
This is me?
Yeah, and me too. Us.
Takers. Who are the blue people?
In tribal societies. Hunters, gatherers, planters. They never killed more animals than they could use. They never plowed more land than they needed. They fought, but they never waged war. Never exterminated. They had a place in the world. And in the world, they were part of it. And they shared it. We changed all that.
Now what? Are we supposed to change it back? What are we supposed to do?
Move.
Move where?
Out of my way.
Are we supposed to unbuild the cities? Wander off into the jungle like you did?
A stupid specious argument. You figure it out. I'm busy.
You're a pain in the neck, Ethan.
I know. Now get out. Dominion.
What?
We have only one thing to give up. Our dominion. We don't own the world. We're not kings here. Not gods. Can we give that up? Too precious, all that control. Too tempting being a god.
Well, I believe there are some important observation in that dialogue. First, human being is a taker, converts everything in his property. Second, the human being does not want to give up his dominion. And third, in ancient times, the human being had the place and role in the world. So, if we want to give a definition of North, I think we should say that the North represents the anthropocentric model by which the world is transformed into something infinitely appropriable. The North is a relational system where the conditions for making the human being a dominant subject are confirmed from time to time. Now, I would like to show you some suggestive part of a documentary by Michelangelo Frammartino. I don't know if you know him. He's a young Italian filmmaker. The title of the work, which was presented in 2013, I think, at MoMA in New York, is Alberi, Trees. Well, this documentary is about a character of a popular tradition in Lucania, a part of a region in south of Italy. But for me, what is important in this video is this idea of consustantiality between man and tree, man and plants, man and other forms of life more in general. In other words, man and tree became almost the same thing. And I think this suggestive idea of union or consustantiality between human and non-humans is important to understand what the South is. And we are used to seeing nature and these resources as objects, as goods to be exploited. And this is basically an idea of the North system. In what can be called the North-centric vision, the human being is separated from nature and the things of the world. Human being is a subject, and the other forms of life are appropriable objects. Now, I want to show you what Boaventura de Sousa Santos, I don't know if you know him, is one of the most important philosophers in the frame of post-colonial studies. I want to show you what he said about this argument.
Eu parto da ideia de que, para nós conhecermos e, sobretudo, conhecermos de uma maneira que seja capacitante, que dê credibilidade e importância a estas experiências não eurocêntricas e que vêm de outras regiões do mundo, informadas por outras cosmovisões, por outros universos simbólicos, por outras maneiras de ver a vida, por outras maneiras de ver a natureza e de conceber a natureza. Para isso, nós precisamos realmente de outras formas de conhecimento, porque o conhecimento eurocêntrico, nas ciências sociais e, aliás, nas outras ciências, que também tem muito mais de contextualização cultural do que a gente pode imaginar, esse conhecimento foi construído para não valorizar essas outras experiências. Dou-te um exemplo, o nosso conceito de natureza como recurso natural. Obviamente que é muito difícil hoje, na nossa comunidade científica, nas ciências da vida, nas ciências sociais, que a gente conceba a natureza de outra forma, senão um recurso natural. O rio é um objeto, as montanhas são objetos, os recursos naturais é para explorar, o petróleo é para explorar até ao tutano, podemos explorar estes recursos todos sem nenhum limite. Ora bem, esta concepção de natureza é uma concepção eurocêntrica. Há outras concepções que eu encontrei no meu trabalho, ao longo das minhas investigações, em que a natureza é um ser vivo. Não está separado de nós somos parte da natureza e, portanto, a natureza não é um recurso natural. A natureza é a terra-mãe de onde vem tudo e, portanto, nós não podemos agredir a nossa mãe, não podemos matar a nossa mãe. Portanto, é outra concepção. Como é que eu vou, com o conhecimento científico eurocêntrico, analisar estas questões? Se eu o fizer desta forma, eu descredibilizo, digo, são loucos. Então, a natureza é mãe. A natureza é um recurso natural, é um objeto, não tem a dignidade. Porquê? Porque o nosso conhecimento está feito na base cartesiana, da diferença entre as coisas e as pessoas, e, portanto, não podemos sair disso. Portanto, é necessário uma revolução epistemológica. Como eu costumo dizer, não há justiça social global sem justiça cognitiva global. Ora bem, as epistemologias do Sul são exatamente uma tentativa de realizar essa justiça cognitiva global, ou seja, trazer outros conhecimentos para dentro do conhecimento científico, porque são outras maneiras de fazer ciência, inclusivamente. Nem faz sentido dizer que não são científicos, eles são outras ciências que existem noutros contextos simbólicos e que estamos a falar, no fundo, da esmagadora maioria da população. Basta olhar para a China e para a Índia, onde as suas cosmovisões e os seus universos simbólicos e os seus conhecimentos milenares são totalmente distintos daqueles que existem na Europa, para não falar da África, para não falar das comunidades camponesas e indígenas da América Latina e também da própria América do Norte, apesar do extermínio. Portanto, há realmente muitos outros conhecimentos e as epistemologias do Sul vêm trazer isso. O Sul é aqui exatamente o Sul anti-imperial, não é aquele Sul que imita o Norte. É o Sul que resiste e que produz alternativas em relação ou o imperialismo e o colonialismo do Norte.
Well, I agree with him, but he doesn't say what South is. But this idea of the union between humans and non-humans is present in many cultures. For example, the Mapuches in Chile defend their rivers because they do not consider them objects, but active subjects. The same can be said for some Brazilian communities. Even in Puglia, my region in south of Italy, farmers defend the centuries-old olive trees. In the field of contemporary art practices, I want to mention Catrileo Carrion community, a group of Mapuche friends. Among other things, they speak about empathy with the human life. They say, or they ask, is it possible to extend empathy to a non-human affection? This idea allows us to use our political imagination to imagine that we put ourselves in the place of a mountain and this time, for example, in order to put in crisis our anthropocentric vision of life. Mapuche culture indicates to us that there is a status of being that is not restricted to people. Ngen is a word of Mapudungun language. Mapudungun is actually the language of Mapuche. And it's interesting because actually Mapudungun means language of the earth. Well, this word Ngen is a word of Mapudungun language, refers to spirits that live everywhere and establish principles of ethical relationship between human and non-human entities. In their artistic practices, they try to create empathy with water, volcanoes, mountains, rivers, and so on. The Ecuadorian constitution, by which the rights of the earth and the indigenous communities are preserved, is an excellent example that underlines what we just said.
En este momento, señor presidente, derechos de la naturaleza. Artículo 1. La naturaleza o Pachamama, donde se reproduce y se realiza la vida, tiene derecho a existir, mantener y regenerar sus ciclos vitales, estructura, funciones y procesos evolutivos. Toda persona, pueblo, comunidad o nacionalidad podrá demandar el cumplimiento de los derechos de la naturaleza ante los órganos públicos para aplicar.
En la audiencia que se llevó a cabo ya en el año pasado, en el año 2011, ante la Corte Interamericana de Derechos Humanos, testificó don Sabino Hualinga, que es el máximo yacha sabio del pueblo de Sarayaco, es un hombre de 91 años. Y ante la Corte dio su testimonio y explicó que tal vez el peor efecto que produjo la actividad de la empresa petrolera en el territorio fue que la mitad de los seres espirituales que habitan el bosque habían tenido que huir y abandonar el territorio para siempre. Entonces ahí hay un daño que va más allá del interés humano. Y la gente Sarayaku lo podía identificar que más allá de lo humano hay otro nivel en el cual los daños ambientales también pueden provocar tremendas catástrofes.
Sarayaku causa alpamang, chay bimtiang, roya, hamberena roya gona, hatung roya, ichila roya, alpata chari amoguna, chay raiko yapabaligan.
Dice, Sarayaku es una tierra viva, es una selva viviente. Ahí existen árboles y plantas medicinales. Y también existen todo tipo de plantas medicinales y otros tipos de seres.
¿Y qué sucedió con esos seres a partir de que la empresa CGC colocó explosivos en la selva y muchas veces los hizo estallar?
Imata tukura chikausag yashingu masangaguna CGC tuguyakta churasha tuyachikpi.
Wanyongona, chaupiga mitikongona. Ongoy ashka ongoy lokseringa. Senje wanyona ongoy gona. Se manda ñokawarme yapa la kirisha. Chori gona manda. Ushoshi gona manda, ailu gona manda a causa la kuna ongushka causan.
Dice, si explota los explosivos, todos estos seres mueren, huyen, desaparecen y el efecto es de que generan grandes enfermedades. Después añade de que mi esposa.
Desde una perspectiva jurídica, muchos abogados, colegas, les parecía impensable que alguien que no sea un ser humano pudiera tener derechos. Entonces tuvimos que plantear un debate jurídico y decir, bueno, en nuestro sistema occidental sí hay entidades que no son humanas, que ni siquiera tienen una existencia real, que tienen derechos, como las personas jurídicas. Las corporaciones tienen algunos derechos, pese a que la misma ley los define como personas ficticias, que son reuniones de capital. Entonces, si esas personas ficticias tienen derechos, con mucha razón, más razón, la naturaleza, cuya existencia real nadie lo puede discutir. Pero más allá de la discusión jurídica había una discusión política de por medio. El considerar a la naturaleza como un ser, como una persona, como alguien digno que merece ser protegido, tiende a desbaratar un sistema económico y político que está basado en el extractivismo. El extractivismo no es otra cosa que apostar todas las posibilidades de desarrollo de un país a la explotación y misericordia de los recursos naturales, a la mayor velocidad posible, en la mayor extensión posible y con los menores costos posibles. Este modelo extractivista ha llevado a desastres ambientales alrededor del mundo. En el Ecuador, el desastre ocasionado en el nororiente de la Amazonía por la explotación petrolera de la empresa Texaco entre los 60 y los 90. Entonces, había que desmontar esa visión de país y los derechos de la naturaleza contribuyen a plantearse una nueva forma de entender el ejercicio de la economía y de la política pública, que es una forma que se resume con las palabras summa causa, que vienen de la tradición quichua de nuestra América, que quiere decir la vida plena en armonía. La armonía entre los individuos, las comunidades y la naturaleza.
Okay. There are many practical examples that we can mention which move on this direction. For example, Al Borde is an Ecuadorian collective of architects who work with artists. Their purpose consists to create social spaces that do not depend on the industrial and the global market of materials, but on local resources and technologies. Especially Escuela Nueva Esperanza project consists on the creation of a school in an isolated village in Ecuador, where people live without the services that we usually use, for example, electricity, internet, smartphone, and so on. What is important for me in this project is the pedagogical aspect. The children not only learn the basic disciplines, Spanish, mathematics, and so on, but they learn forms to interact with other forms of life in the area. One activity they carry out is related to octopus fishing or the identification of flora and fauna. I would like to show you a very similar example in Burkina Faso. The video is part of the documentary Burkina Bounty, Agroecology in Burkina Faso by Yara Lee. Burkina Bounty shows agricultural resistance and the struggle for food sovereignty in Burkina Faso, a small landlocked country in West Africa. This documentary shows activist farmers, students, artists fighting to recover their land and defend their tradition from the invasion of the agro-industries.
Alors, le but, c'était de travailler sur l'agriculture, culture et art, parce que c'est beaucoup de ces trois choses qui vont ensemble. Ça veut dire qu'il faut essayer, même dans les écoles, l'agriculture. Par exemple, il y a Slow Food. Commence à faire des jardins même dans les écoles. C'est très important. Je sais qu'il y a beaucoup d'enfants aujourd'hui, quand on leur parle d'un baobab, peut-être ils ont vu seulement dans les films. Ils n'ont pas vu encore un baobab. Et c'est pas bien ça.
Le convivium de bingo à lui seul compte de nos jours 8 jardins potagers. Et je pense que là aussi, c'est une importance du jardin potager parce que c'est un instrument qui permet aux gens de s'éveiller et puis de comprendre que l'agriculture, c'est quelque chose de très bon et ça donne une certaine fierté. C'est un projet d'éducation en somme, mais bon. Nous avons environ un effectif de 400 élèves dans notre école. Les enfants travaillent dans le jardin, ils voient son importance, ils voient ce que ça leur apporte, ils s'amusent en travaillant. Je pense qu'au-delà de tout ça, ils ont une autre vision du jardin en tant que tel. Vous avez semé quoi dans votre jardin?
Les concombres.
Des concombres, ensuite et quoi?
Poivron.
Des poivrons, ensuite et quoi?
Oignons.
Des oignons et quoi encore?
Aubergines.
Des aubergines.
L'aspect très important de ces jardins au niveau des écoles, c'est l'aspect pédagogique, l'aspect didactique, qui permet aux enfants dans les écoles de peut-être éduqués à travers le travail des jardins pour qu'ils puissent comprendre quelles sont les espèces qu'il faut récupérer, pourquoi il faut prendre soin de la terre, pourquoi il faut prendre soin de la nourriture, qu'est-ce que la nourriture bonne, quelle est la nourriture de qualité qu'il faut conserver, quelles sont les semences du territoire qu'il faut conserver. Donc c'est vraiment une approche qui permet d'éduquer ces enfants qui sont la génération future au sein des écoles à pouvoir prendre en compte réellement la défense de la biodiversité alimentaire, culturelle, la défense en un mot de la terre et de l'environnement dans lequel ils se trouvent.
Qui est malade?
Alors, à l'école, surtout au niveau du primaire, dans des classes comme le CM, on apprend aux enfants ce que c'est que les plantes. On étudie aussi l'agriculture. Mais avoir un jardin potager à l'école, c'est une occasion aussi d'avoir une classe à ciel ouvert où les enfants peuvent savoir ce que c'est qu'une plante. Et puis, les enfants peuvent savoir ce que c'est que l'agriculture.
C'est véritablement de pouvoir permettre aux gens de faire face et de résister à tous ces envahissements avec les produits chimiques qui nous arrivent un peu partout et qui polluent notre environnement, qui détruisent nos terres et qui traînent beaucoup de maladies auxquelles les communautés sont confrontées.
So finally, as we said, the North embodies the anthropocentric model by which the world and these forms of life became infinitely appropriable. In the North, the parameters to reconfirm the supremacy of the human being as the dominant subject are established from time to time. Instead, if we look at the South and these internal practices, we realize that we have a completely different relational system. What is the South? If you want to give a definition of what the South is or should be, I think we could say that South is the possibility of inhabiting the world generated by anti-hierarchical and anti-hegemonic cooperation between humans and non-humans. The North represents the way by which we occupy the world. The South represents the possibility of inhabiting it because, as someone said, inhabiting cancels any type of bureaucracy of reality linked to the supremacy of a dominant subject. So, if the South represents this particular relational system with the world, the question is, how can we achieve this consubstantiality between humans, non-humans, and territories in our social, political, artistic, cultural, and economic practices? How can we remove the idea of a dominant subject? And I think I'm finished.
Thank you. We had some problems here and there, but basically, yeah, we were able to see all the movies and the films and the documentaries as well. There was a moment when someone was really happy because I already saw the documentary, I mean, from the green leaves and so on. So there was a little bit of, like, wow, I know it. So it has been quite interesting here. But yeah, thank you, Leonardo, because like it's a very difficult concept to face with, and yeah, I mean, the way you decided to treat it is very interesting for me, and also able to like moving from one culture to another, just like moving on the same concept and trying to explore also, thanks to some points and philosophers and so on, like the meaning of the South, and the final like considerations are very interesting. Also, the fact that you are basically considering this human, non-human way of being. I mean, this is quite not that banal. Let's say it's not superficial. It's very deep. So I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Just to say the name of the philosopher is Boaventura de Sousa Santos. Also is interesting, another philosopher, a Bolivian philosopher, Silvia Rivera Cusicanqui. Well, I don't know if there's a chat. Maybe I can write the name of I don't know if you have some questions or just reflection in general.
Okay, I will start to say something, so maybe to break the ice. To me, I mean, what was interesting for me since the very beginning, actually since a few months ago when we started speaking and talking also about the concept, is this, let's say, approach of, let's say, the extractionism approach. So the fact that we also discussed with some of the guys here, especially with Matteo, just like the fact that when we work on a specific community, with a specific community or with a specific group of people, for making research, but also for making socially engaged art, actually it's very difficult to understand, to see the line between, like going there and using that community. So basically considering ourselves as the North ones and the other ones the South ones. It doesn't matter, of course, where they stay, where they live, but like this relation of power in a very colonialistic approach. So I go there, I do something, I do my research. I mean, I did my thesis on Prato, as you everybody know, because I told you many times during these 2 weeks about this issue. But yeah, I went there, I studied this object, and I did my drawings, I did my research, I did my things, and this and that. And I was also convinced. I was really engaged with the community because I know I was with them, like eating dinner together and preparing ravioli together, dumplings and so on, But then at the end, I kind of used this community for my proposal, for my approach. So this point of, like that you use someone that you pick out the most from other people, the community, other places. This is a very interesting issue for us, and I mean, and for many of us, we kind of every day we say like, yeah, I have this practice, but yes, what's my role? Am I in the right, position, or am I only using the others, exploiting the others, extracting what I can from the others? So yeah, this is to me, it's the most interesting point that I love to explore more, understand more.
Yeah, in my experience, it's difficult to understand this line. I have 2 examples. For example, I'm sorry for my English, it's really bad because I used to speak Spanish, is my second language, but I collaborate with a program, Focare, that is a program residency in south of Italy, actually in Parco Nazionale del Cilento in Campania, in south of Italy, where we try to, try to take care of relationship actually between human and territories in rural context. And I remember that a friend, she is a performer, and she had this performer where she imits Santa Cecilia. I don't know, we translate it, Santa Cecilia. And during a meeting with, and then she print these little images of sense that, and during a meeting, a woman take one of these image and she give a kiss, something like this religious ritual to this image, but actually that image was a photo by the performance of my friend. So this is it's something like a joke, but for me it's difficult to understand this line. Actually, in the same residency, we had to face with problems of local population, because I don't know, they don't like music, they don't know what a performance is. So I think we have to find a a sort of compromise when we work in with the community.
Can I say something? Yeah, maybe I think I have something to add because I think I'm the only one. I think no, I'm the only one, as I know, the Latino American.
Oh.
So I'm Brazilian, and and also like my background, I'm architect.
Okay.
So, and I think I don't know, just some sharing. Like we have one expression in Portuguese that we say like when you go to some community or some kind of this social experience, we should desarmar, unarmed ourselves, but unarmed because sometimes like we arrive there with a lot of thoughts. No, I want to do that. I want to that. I want to then to give me that, and we have like these. I don't know, especially like in vulnerable communities, which is like my experience. Like you go like a kind of white paper, and you see what's going on. If they will draw, or if they will scratch this paper, what's gonna happen? But you go like more. We say like a desarmado. This for me is like a very good expression too for this kind of approach. And also in your examples, I think you probably know this one, but I don't know if the other ones know about Ayrton Krenak, which is a leader, indigenous leader in Brazil, and he's also a writer. So, and he works exactly with this idea, like this no anthropocenic world. Well, he's a super leader in Brazil, and he's a nice reference because he's nowadays he's traveling a lot, and there are a few books around the world with his idea, but like one very nice is like ideas to avoid the end of the world.
Mm-hmm.
And it's through these concepts like as how nature is it's not this European point of view, so it's just an extra reference.
Well, I don't know. In Brazil, there's a good example. Comboio, Colectivo Comboio.
Non conosco.
Is is a community working Favela do Moinho.
Ah, sim.
Okay, do you know it?
Mm-hmm.
They for me it's a good example of what we call community-based art practices, because they convert the community in self-sufficient community.
Mm-hmm.
So there are a lot of things there, because there are there's I don't know, economic problems. How can we organize ourselves? How can we organize our resources and so on? And it's a good example to think about that. And another example for me, it could be interesting for you about this idea of community, of what Michele said, this line, this probably form of expropriation or symbolic expropriation, culture, aesthetic expropriation, and so on. There's a concept in the South African cultures. I don't know if you know him, Ubuntu. It's the same of the software Ubuntu. Well, Ubuntu refers to cooperation and a sort of an anti-hegemonic cooperation with people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it's just a suggestion if you are interested in these arguments.
Cool.
But for me, also the language is an interesting field. You know, for example, I was, I don't know, I can say shocked when I knew that in Mapudungun, the language Mapuche, they have not a word to refers to freedom. Freedom is completely European concept, if we think in, or also, I don't know, in south of Colombia, there's another community called, which could be interesting, Misak, a Misak community, and they say that they don't know what community is. For them, community is a concept of white European men. They don't know, but why they don't know? Because probably, I don't know, it's my opinion, they live, they think ourselves not as a principal subject of relationship between the nature, between the world, and so on. So they don't need to think about them in like a community, no? I don't know.
There isn't also like a.
Oh. No, go ahead.
You can go. No worries.
Oh, okay. This is maybe a bit off topic, but I was wondering, in this type of research, when I work on topics like this, I tend to feel really involved, and I feel like I need to look for a solution, and I get really frustrated when I feel like it's impossible to solve these problems. But I don't know how you stand in this. Like, do you look for solutions? Do you want to uncover? Do you, I don't know, have something to say about this?
Can you repeat, please?
Yeah, when I work on topics like this
Yeah.
and think about these things, I tend to look for solutions.
Uh-huh.
And I get a bit frustrated when I feel like I can't figure out a way to solve anything. So I was wondering how you feel about this.
Well, I don't know. Maybe Alessandra, because Alessandra is part, you know, of arte utile, useful art. I don't know. Maybe he has the answer, but I don't know. It's difficult to. I think the solution needs time, a lot of time. And for example, in Chile, I worked with the students of the Faculty of Architecture, with the local community, an eco-pedagogical community, and the exercise consists to create some socio-technic dispositive, like, I don't know, not a biogas, but a biofilter to how can I say, occupy again the same water, and they draw and they think the object with the community. So I think actually the problem is to find a compromise. You have to think about what really community needs, and what is your, actually probably is the same discourse about this idea of a dominant subject. You are a part of a group, you are not a leader, you know? So I think that maybe for an artist, this is difficult, because an artist, I don't know, I worked as artist for a long time. So it's difficult for an artist to share, maybe to share everything, to not feel like the main subject of the community work.
I also would say something about some experience also in Brazil. I think it's more in the sense that you said that it's more, maybe it's the architecture approach, like how you build together, how you put yourself also in the position of learning. because this for us, like, it comes also from this Eurocentric perspective, like I'm white, okay, but the white colonizadore, and in the way that how you put how it's a both ways, like how you learn, like because otherwise you arrive with this idea of like, I want to solve some problems, and maybe at the end you're not solving nothing, and you are like just building something together that maybe it's just like for example, I don't know, we had like in one occupation in Brazil, which is a super good example with a lot of artists working there. It's called 9 de Julho in São Paulo. And for example, they built like a how would you say, like a horta, una horta de
come una huerta.
una huerta, sì, the vegetables, like a community. Yeah, so, but it's something that they didn't need. Like they could buy, like as I buy, like in the supermarket, but somehow was something that they saw together, and they decided, like, let's do that. So again, like this idea of how we need to go with a step back and not go. I would say like not going always with the solutions and trying to solve something that sometimes the problem and the issue to work arrived in the social engagement, like which is natural, and sometimes it starts with wine, sometimes it starts with collective drawing, like how the approach could be different.
2 points about that. The first one, well, Alborde, I mentioned Alborde working in this way. So in that way, so the project is completely made by the community. Also, I don't know, in architecture the design. Well, actually, the project is made with the community, and as I say, they occupied local materials, local technology, in order to not depend to global market, import export of materials. And the second point, Porque Niao in Brazil es un colectivo, perdón, is a Brazilian art group. Well, if you know, if you want, I don't know, their contact, also the contact of Alborde, they are my friends, so I can give you the. And Porque Niao in Brazil, well, they start from a research about self-sufficient community in Brazil, and then they work with community to create this urban garden with vegetable, fruits, and so on. It's interesting.
Leonardo, what was the name of the collective Porque Niao?
See, I don't know if there's a chat, because I
yeah, there is a chat. Yeah, there is a chat. Like at the top, you can find the symbol and. Like Alborde, I know them also because they also came to the Biennale a few times. Porque Niao, but I cannot find them on the internet. So
no, you can find them on Facebook.
Okay.
Oh.
Ok. No, no, non ho disponibile io la chat, per questo no.
Ok. So I don't know if there are other questions, or interventions. If anybody wants to add something. Sorry, we decided to turn off the camera because we had bad connections at the moment and we couldn't hear perfectly. So that's the reason why we turned it off. But anyway, yeah. If you have any doubts or questions or comments, also, yeah, feel totally free.
Well, Michele asked me my email, so if you want to write me, no problem.
Maybe have like one thing I'm interested in, like how do you do your research? Because like you stay in like I believe you live in Italy, or where do you live?
And now in Italy.
Yeah, and then like how do you do your research if you yeah look into like the south as like a geographical part? Like how do you connect with that?
Well, actually, I don't know. I'm there are some biographical elements of some personal things. I don't know that push me to study this the problem of the South. But I started it in actually in South America, in Chile. And well, it's funny because this idea to study the problem of the South came when during a meeting about this idea of decolonialization, post-colonial studies with I don't know, artists, researchers, and so on in Chile. And where an artist presented her work and artwork and with a lot of philosophical concepts and so on. But when I asked, okay, but what is South for you? She was silent. So for me, this was the moment when I started to think, okay, maybe what is the South is a particular problem. And I don't know, I come from south of Italy, and I think there, and yeah, I grew up in a rural context. So I think that it's I don't know, but biographical, there are many elements of my biography that push me to study to study this concept of the South. Probably this idea of the rural context. Actually, when I was at Unidee, the same place where are the guys now, I participated in a residency program, trauma and revival, during, if I remember well, 2016. And my project was about the relation of this archaeology of ex-NATO military bases and the local population in the south of Italy. So I have this this problem of South appears in everything I do. I don't know.
Okay. So, I don't know if there are other comments or notes. If anyone wants to add something, otherwise we can just kind of finish this meeting.
I have one more question.
Yes.
So now it's a question. What do you think? So I don't know. I know you are still doing like your research about this topic, but how do you see it in the art context? Because maybe you share some references that for I know also about and more in the architect, like it's something in between, but like in the arts practice. I don't know. What do you think? If you have an idea or not?
What do you think about art practices? No.
In the sense, yeah, in the sense of
No,
this South point.
No, it's a joke. It's a joke.
Yeah.
Because I think that when artistic practices start to establish same links with economical problems, political problems, it's the same thing. I don't know. For me, we can understand also a political a political, I don't know, riot, for example, in artistic way is the same for me in the contemporary field. For me, what is important is the common purpose. So is our purpose consists to, I don't know, self-determination. I don't know what is. It's not important the methods. Because also a lot of contemporary art practices work in this way. No, so for me there's no difference. It's the same thing. Alborde, I don't know. Probably we can understand Alborde also in about I don't know, contemporary artistic tools. No, so there's no difference for me, and there's no different if we think about our purpose or common purpose.
Okay. It's almost 8 o'clock. So, yeah, I would love to thank you very much, Leonardo, because it has been a very, not only interesting, but also, like very passionate in contribution, and also something like very an intervention which really can touch, like very deep of our practice and our actions, like everyday actions. I have to say that it's a little bit difficult to follow like online. That's something bad also because we are in a room with some echo, and so this also makes it a little bit difficult. But yeah, it was super interesting for me, and I guess for many of the students here, and also over there. I can see like the eyes are really like curious and interested in the things. So thank you a lot, and thank you also to all the students who joined and the ones who will see the recording like tomorrow or 2 days after. We will post it online, of course, and that's all. So for the moment, I want to say like have a very good night to all of you, all the students of this project, and also the other students from ArtEZ who decided to connect and follow the meeting. As a reminder, I will say that next week we have 2 more Talk and Drinks meetings. On Tuesday, we will meet Jan van Rijswijk. She's an incredible artist working in the Netherlands in community engagement through art practice. She will talk about her practice actually like in a very practical way also. And on Thursday instead we will meet Stodela. They're a collective from Russia, and they do many projects in social engaged practice, and we will see together, we will watch together the movie A Border Musical, which is a movie set in Norway, and there is this relation of someone like moving to Norway and that has to marry someone and blah blah blah. So it's sort of quite interesting movie. We will watch together and discuss with them. So yes, and thank you again, Leonardo, for all this conversation and the reflections, and see you soon. And have a very good night to everyone. Keep on drinking your wine. Let's see very soon. Ciao, ciao, ciao.